Who said you could have a crown?
Me.
I don't think that's fair.
I did. I'm the king now.
But you might say it's a fake crown, but real ego.
Entitlement.
I like that. Yeah, welcome to Fake Crown.
Real entitlement. Huzzah!
What are we talking about today, Jim?
Combat.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm the king.
What did the table ever do to you?
I'm the fucking king.
Alright, calm down.
Today we're talking about combat in Empire and the rules of such.
There are no rules in
There are no rules. And as a very special treat to all y'all, we have some friends.
They're up here, maybe.
No, they'll take the full screen.
They're
Here we go.
They're in front of me.
Hello everyone, I'm Oliver, this is Robyn.
Hello!
2Have&2Role, and we are LARP test dummies for the day.
We don't actually have to wait because we're gonna just cut it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I understand.
So more time has
Movie
now
science.
passed for you than has for us. But yes.
Oh my god, this is time travel.
We have Robyn and Oliver from 2Have&2Role to help us explain this, and we shot on the ground in Anvil. That's right, it's a real place. We haven't been making it up the whole time.
Yeah. Fake something real place. I can't think of a good word though.
I don't know. Hands in the air, we're just off. Like, we've been solidly going since E3, and we've just come off the back.
And before, to be honest.
And before, yeah. We've just come off the back of Dublin Comic Con.
Yeah.
So, apologies if our wherewithal is not withal where in this one.
Yeah. Where could our wherewithal be found? Anywhere.
Anywhere at all.
That was pretty good, actually.
Yeah. Never be that good again. Right. Let's
Combat.
get into it. Dylan has the plan for this one.
I do, and Jim rewrote the plan for this one, so I'm trying to understand Jim's notes.
Here, Jim
No!
has the plan for this one.
This is my work laptop. I can't have you touch it. Don't! You're spoiling it.
Combat in Empire.
Combat Empire.
What should you expect?
I hate you so much. Really. Combat in Empire, and what you should expect. See, I did a bit of a different delivery there, so it was different.
You took a different cadence, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. So what should you expect?
So, combat in Empire has a low barrier to entry. It has rules. There's not that many of them, but you need to know them. Other than that, it's just light combat. It's like if you were doing fencing or HEMA. It's exactly like that. It's just actual combat. With some calls and spells thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
But we'll go through it. We'll break it down on all the rules, all the calls, what you should and shouldn't know. But yeah, look, it's just fighting.
Yeah, and if maybe this is going to be your first time at Empire or first time at any other LARP, I guess maybe what you should know is when to expect combat. And unlike from what we understand anyway, other LARPs, where things like camp raids and things, where it's very much an action roleplay. This is, I think by definition, Empire is a live roleplay. It's not technically live action roleplay, because that's not the core of it. So actually, Anvil itself, just the main ground, is very, very safe. You don't have to know the rules for combat at all, just like you don't need to know the rules for magic or politics or religion necessarily.
Yeah, for a lot of people, they'll never do combat in Anvil. But this video isn't for them.
This video is for you, because you want blood and glory!
Let's get with the fucking violence.
So yeah, main things when combat happens is battles. And if you're not battling, you're monstering. And then sometimes you go on skirmishes. Do you want to talk about battles, monstering, and skirmishes real briefly?
Real briefly. Sometimes there are battles.
They will be either on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning.
Yes. Battles have two armies. You will either be playing the heroes of the Empire, who are going out to achieve noble and glorious deeds, or you will be playing the monsters, who are fighting for their lands and lives.
And if you battle as yourself, your own character, one day, you'll always monster then on the second day.
Yes, you must monster.
You must monster, otherwise you don't have people to fight against.
Yes. Now you can monster and not battle if you'd like.
Yeah, you could.
Which I know a few people do that.
Yeah, so if you would like kind of the thrill of battle and kind of give it out, but you don't want to risk your character, you can totally just go in and monster on both days. That's absolutely fine. But you should never battle on both days. That is a big no-no.
Yeah, don't do that. That's not cool.
Yeah. And then outside of that, there are skirmishes. So skirmishes are like small battles. They only last 10 to 20 minutes.
20 minutes most.
Yeah.
I think 25 is the longest I've ever seen one.
They're usually smaller with a maximum of like 70 people on a skirmish, and that would be a very big one.
Yeah.
Some could be as small as 20. And yeah, they kind of happen throughout the weekend, usually on Friday and Saturday. There's no skirmishes on Sunday. And then other than that, there's maybe fights in camps and things, but they are very much
well, I wouldn't
duels
even say, fights in the camps. It's not like a fight will break out. Like somebody might challenge you to a duel, or there would be a competition or something like that. There'd be, what would you call it? Like miniature tournaments and stuff.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to get your combat in the camp. Or training, you know, where somebody like, we're doing sparring, XYZ, we always do it, come and find us.
Yep.
But it'll never be a case of you're walking along. Well, you know, it could happen. There's nothing to say it wouldn't, but I've never seen or heard of it happen.
Yeah.
Outside of plot-driven things where the player kind of knows it's going to happen, you know?
So, yeah. So, let's talk about the mechanics and how the rules actually works. And if you get hit, what happens? And if you hit someone else, what happens to them? So, first thing to know is how many times can you get hit, and where can you get hit, and what happens. So everyone starts off with 2. That's 2 points of HP, essentially, or global hits.
Yes.
And
2 points, 1 life.
And regardless of where you get hit, you still take a point. So some systems have like separate points for your arms, your legs, your torso. None of that. A hit is a hit is a hit. Even if it hits armor, it's still a hit. So if you're clad in loads of nice little clank and you get a little bop and it goes all clanky, you still take a point of damage. However, armor will increase your HP. We'll get onto in a second. In terms of losing hits, I think the big important thing is, your head is also a viable target, but only if it's the only viable target. So if someone's carrying behind a big shield, like I often do on the front line,
and it's only a little noggin peeking out.
Yeah, you can be like, bonk. You know, don't lash their head. And in general, we actually need to go quite light, and we should be pulling our blows.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about pulling blows?
Yes. So, it's kind of assumed that you're not going to go heavy in Empire. And you shouldn't go heavy.
You shouldn't.
Refs will always be there watching how hard you hit things as well. So like, remember I hit the table earlier and I went, BAM! That is too hard. And that wasn't even that heavy, I just hit it with the flat of the blade. But like, to give you an expensive example.
Don't please. Okay.
That's about as light as you should be aiming to hit.
Might work better never watch these videos.
Now, obviously it's very hard to hit like that when you're like in the middle of a fight and you're like fighting someone and you go, like there will be times where you hit someone a little harder than you anticipated or you intended to. And in those instances you just check in and you say, oh hey look, sorry, is that too hard? And they'll be like, no, it's fine, it's made of foam. Or, yes, that actually I felt that a little bit. And you'll be like, right, real sorry. And then the next time you just pull your blow. So do try and work out how hard you should be swinging beforehand. Even if it's just a case of finding your mate and being like, is that too hard? And they'll give you a yes or a no. You know?
Yeah, and if it's your first time, even if it's not your first time in Anvil, but it's maybe your first time fighting, go to the new player skirmish on a Friday, get a feel for it, because adrenaline will happen and you will inevitably go hard and fast.
Or get hit hard and fast.
Or get hit.
Which will happen occasionally.
It's part of the game. We try to be as safe as we can, but it's still contact sport at the end of the day, this aspect of it. So accidents happen, mistakes happen, injuries happen.
Yeah.
But it's your responsibility to make sure that they
are minimal.
Yeah, exactly. Following on from kind of speed of attacks and things like that, and losing HP, there is a very important rule to know called the 1 second rule.
Yes.
So if I am fighting Jim, I can't go I'll be
I've
like,
taken 10 hits. I've been dead for 8.
because we're using fake swords, we need to kind of simulate that they're real swords, and you can only take 1 hit point of damage every second per attacker. If 2 people hit you in the same second, you take 2 points of damage. But if I go like 1, 2, that's still only 1 point of damage. So I just need to go 1.
So
2.
say you're dual wielding and you're going. Oh, actually, that's an interesting question. Dual wielding, does that count as 2 hits?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, so 1 point per second per attacker. So if someone is absolutely...
I'll check that afterwards, but I'm fairly sure it doesn't.
Yeah. So if 2 people are absolutely playing you... Sorry. So if one person is absolutely playing you like a set of drumsticks and going... You've taken like 2 hits there.
Yeah.
Because it went on for 2 seconds. So keep that in mind. I've seen a lot of people would be like fighting someone and someone goes... And they go down because they've taken 3 hits and they had 3 hits. No, you've only taken 1 hit in that instance.
So, yeah. But what happens then, Jim, if I go into battle and I'm unarmored or I don't have points of endurance, all of which we're going to cover in a minute, and I get hit twice in 2 seconds?
Yes.
What happens? Am I just straight up dead?
No. Funnily enough.
Oh my god.
Yes, you're only put to a bleed count.
I'm only bleeding out for my very life. I'm watching the essence of all that is slip out before me as I gaze into the sky, watching an uncaring and unjust world slip by as I die for some fruitless cause?
Yes.
Great.
Sorry, I got thrown by how good that was.
Thank you.
Yeah, you get put on a bleed count, which means you go down, and bleed counts will vary. At standard, they're 3 minutes, isn't it?
Yes.
So at standard, you have a 3-minute bleed count. Now you can up that. Again, we'll deal with that in a minute. But basically, it means when you get, like, when your hit points get knocked away by a druid or something, you go to the ground and you become basically
dying,
useless. You're lying there. The only actions you can take are talking, I believe.
Yep.
So you have to kind of lie there. You can be like, help, help, I'm over here, I'm bleeding out. They stabbed me with a pole arm or whatever. But you can't run away. You can't crawl away. You have to stay where you are and just absolutely hope to God hope to the virtues that somebody comes to save you. Which will happen.
Which
probably.
Hopefully. So yeah,
probably.
Most important is at a base, you have 3 minutes, so you should be counting yourself or have a little watch or some method. I need to get some sort of timer or something.
I always count myself, but then I miss cool things around me because I'm focusing on
but I think that's okay because you're dying, so
yeah,
you
can be like, I didn't see that. My eye had fallen out of my head.
Yeah, exactly. But you can be healed. But before we talk about healing, let's talk about health. So we don't want to drop to 0. I don't want to get only hit 2 times and then die. I want to be hit more than that and keep fighting.
Yes.
So the easiest and best way to do that is put some armor on you.
Mm-hmm.
Simple.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 types of armor in Empire.
Creatively enough, it's light, medium, and heavy armor.
Yeah. Actually, sorry, I lied. There's 4. There's also mage armor.
That's very true. Yeah, which often phys rep wise is light or medium armor.
Yes. I think we'll probably cover that in our magic episode whenever we do that. But yeah, in general, you have light, medium, and heavy. You'll get an additional 2 points, 2 global hit points with light, 3 with medium, and 4 with heavy. So that's good. I also think you get an additional hero point with medium, which is kind of cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I only found that out the other day, after E3. I was like, that's nifty.
That's wild. What's the reason for that? Because you're maneuverable? I
would imagine so. I think it's maybe just to probably to promote different.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of people go for heavy armor because the absolute boost to AC or whatever.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, and then wild. Light armor is missing out.
Yeah.
Although I suppose it's absolute maneuverability with light armor.
There might be other stuff for light armor. I don't know. We might put a little text box or something that has what it is here after we check. So
Boss is going to say there is not.
So if you're wearing light armor and you've got no additional buffs, you'll have 4 HP. Medium will give you up to a max of 5. Heavy up to a max of 6. Then you have got skills like endurance, which basically for every rank of endurance you have, you get an additional point of HP. Pretty simple.
You'll get characters who just stack endurance.
Yeah.
Like the people who are like, got 15 health, no big.
Yeah.
And they've just been stacking endurance for like 6 years.
The other thing that affects not necessarily your HP, but your bleed count, as you mentioned earlier, is fortitude.
Yes.
So basically, for each rank of fortitude, you get an additional amount. It varies.
It's not like a minute each time.
Yeah. It varies, but you'll get more minutes of bleeding out.
Up here.
Basically.
Yeah.
And
that is actually very practical, as was evidenced at the last event.
I mean, the difference between, because for your first rank of fortitude, you get an additional 1 minute. And 1 minute is a long time in the battle.
Especially when
1 minute is the difference between life and death.
And was. Like, Conrad in our Lance was down for, he had stacked endurance. He was down for like 4.5 minutes or something before we got back to him. So if he hadn't done that, Conrad would be gone.
Fortitude.
Sorry,
I think
fortitude. Yeah. Conrad would be gone.
Yeah. And then obviously there is also other things like rituals and potions and tonics and things like that, which will also increase your endurance as well.
Like a temporary boost.
Yes.
This is the Witcher drinking the potions before he goes to fight the monster.
I love drinking tonics.
Yeah.
Shout out to...
Tig's a good one for a tonic.
I am a good one for a tonic.
Shout out to Nimia.
Yeah, shout out to Nimia. I always, like, Tig is always, like, he's so all about potions because I would constantly hand you, like, drink these.
Like, I got out of my tent before the battle, and Tig was just standing outside. It was like, fucking drink this. Okay.
And very important to know, sorry, going back to the armor real quick, there's no skills required to wear. Anyone can wear armor.
Yeah.
However, if you are a magician, you can't wear armor and cast spells. You can still wear the armor, but your magic will be nullified, hence mage armor. So yeah, now we're going to talk about weapons and what type of weapons to use. So we've talked about, how you can maybe survive a bit more hits, but how do you hit them? Because the best way to stay alive is to knock your opponent to 0.
Yes.
Before they
all remember that loading tip.
Yeah.
The best way to win a fight is to reduce your
opponent's HP to 0
before yours is reduced to 0.
It's so accurate.
Yes.
So let's talk about the different weapons you can use.
Okay, right. So you have a list. I'm not going to try and remember them all.
Okay, yeah. So first off, we have what's called like non-skilled weapons. I say what's called. I'm calling them non-skilled weapons.
Yes.
They are basically
standard weapons.
Standard weapons. They are anything up to 48 inches long,
which is about this long. I think that is 48 inches.
Yeah.
So your kind of standard
rapiers, one-handed
short swords, one-handed sword. Anybody can use that. Same with a knife. Or like a
small axe or small club or something.
Anything under that length, you can use.
Yeah.
You can use one of. You can't pick up 2 because dual wielding is a skill unto itself.
Exactly. And if you want to use a weapon bigger than that, you need great weapon fighting, which is basically like I think it's called the weapon master or something like that. But
weapon master is.
But there is a skill for it. And that'll basically let you use anything above 48 inches, which basically is anything two-handed. Yes. And essentially anything over 48 inches has to be held with 2 hands, which means if you get cleaved or something like that, which again, we'll get into, spoiler alert, you can't use it anymore.
Yes.
Jim, say I wanted to have one of these.
Yes.
But it was small, and I wanted to throw at someone.
Oh. You would be wise and handsome.
Yeah.
But you would need the thrown skill.
Okay. Yes. Well, that's cool. So I can throw things at people?
Yes, you can throw things as long as they are under. And the wiki, I think, is wrong about this. The wiki says over 8 inches. I think it is actually under. It's a topic of some debate.
Okay.
But
yeah.
Yes. So you want a throwing knife, which can be acquired at Anvil, because the one thing about throwing knives is you accept you're throwing money away when you get them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a knife. You can have a throwing axe if you're a Varushkin. If you're a marcher, you can have a throwing potato. But yes, anything you want to hurl at the opponent, you need the thrown skill to do. And you have to have those weapons pre-approved in weapons check, like every weapon, but especially thrown ones, because some of them are made to look like real-world objects. So
Yeah.
just triple check what you can and can't throw in a game.
So okay, so if it's real small, but say I wanted to take this, maybe most of it was made out of wood, and I wanted to hold it like this, and then propel it with some sort of string on a stick.
Yes.
That would be Archery?
I believe it's pronounced Ashwi.
Okay, and how do I Ashwi?
You would take a skill. Now it's got a weird name. For some reason they call it Archery.
Oh, don't like that. That doesn't roll off the tongue at all.
But if you want to shoot someone with a bow and arrow, you need that skill, and it's like four of your experience points.
Yeah.
So they really
Which
want
is a
you
chunky
to just
amount
kind
of
of be
XP.
an archer. So archers can basically shoot and do one or two small things.
Yeah. But it's cool. And then finally,
We might, because there's a lot of rules. I'm going to just very quickly fly through some of the archery rules, the quick ones.
oh sure, yeah, you know a lot more about archery than I do.
So one, you have to be able to prove you know what you're doing. If you want to bring a bow, you'll have to
Be able to string it, right?
thank you. String it. You'll have to string and unstring it in front of a weapons check. Also, you'll have to prove that you're able to draw back the poundage. It has to be between X and Y poundage. I'll put it on the screen. And then also, the main thing about archery now is when you go into an archery, you'll get a little book that explains all this. But basically, you have to check every weapon. You can't hold every arrow. So if you pick an arrow up, you have to check it before you put it in its quiver. If you want to shoot it, you take it out of the quiver, you have to check it again. Basically, you give it a bit of a bend, see if it's going to snap, like test it that way. You test the head that it's not loose, give it a bit of a squeeze, test the flights, and then you're free to shoot it. You are absolutely free to pick up arrows and shoot them immediately, but you do have to check them between picking it up and putting it to the bow.
Yeah, and the same goes for crossbows and crossbow bolts as well.
Yes.
So yeah, important to know. Again, archery is very much underrepresented, I think, in Alvo because it's more expensive because you have so many arrows.
Archery has been described as hobbyists shooting 10-pound notes at each other.
Yeah. Your arrows will break, they'll get lost, and then obviously not that it's a bad thing to do all of the additional checks and things, but it does slow down the game a little bit, I would imagine. Yeah, you've done it before.
Now that said, Joey
these can be done
and
very
Tasha took me out monstering as an archer once, and it was so much fun. I fully recommend if you're like, oh, I might do archery, do it. It is so much fun, and it's underrepresented. And archers make the battles so much more fun as well.
It makes it a lot more thrilling knowing that there's archers about, and you have to be constantly aware for that as well.
Yes.
Like the danger element goes high. There's like a little fly on the lens. I wonder if he's going to be in the shot.
Actually, he might not be unless he crosses the center. I think because one time I shot something and there was a droplet on it. And I was like, "Fuck! Is that everything ruined?" And you couldn't see the droplet.
Oh, that's not
So it's actually the whole lens isn't representative on the.
Speaking of circular things,
Yeah.
shields.
Shields.
What a
What?
flawless segue.
Fantastic segue.
So actually, what's surprising is anyone can actually use a shield provided it's less than 15 inches in diameter, which is relatively small.
So that's like a buckler.
Yes.
Basically.
But you can use it, and if you want to use a big shield, then you need a shield, the skill for shield, and there are maximum sizes that your shield could be depending on the shape and style of the shield.
Yes.
So again, table here, we'll link down below and stuff as well. But yeah, fight with shields, they're cool. I didn't think I was going to enjoy fighting with a shield as much, but I love fighting with a shield. It's real enjoyable.
It's classic fucking sword and board.
Yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like the basics of like what you can use, what you need to do to be able to use them, the types of things you might come up against. And we also even talked about like, there's things like flails and other random weapons that all kind of fit as long as it doesn't matter what the type of weapon is.
As long as it's safe.
As long as it's safe and within those kind of ranges. Oh, actually, a very good thing, something we haven't mentioned that's not on my notes I just thought about is, however, stabbing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
with pretty much all weapons, you can only hit, like you can only do cuts. However, you can get stab safe spears and things like that you can stab with, but they have to be constructed specifically. So don't expect to be able to stab. You kind of usually have to buy it specifically or get it made specifically.
Exactly, and it'll have like a compression to it. When you
Yes.
touch the top of it, it's going to
You go-
feel like a bouncy castle or something
Yeah.
at the top. It'll feel like it's filled with air.
So, other couple of random bits that is important before we get into kind of the meat and bones of rules and calls and different things you can do in combat. Just some general tips and points about combat.
Yes.
As you mentioned earlier, Jim, about checking in with your opponent when you've maybe, if you're not sure of the level of violence you're enacting upon each other.
Yes.
Other just very courteous, good player things to do is watching out if your opponent is backing up a lot and there is a tree,
Or
there
a
is
log,
a log or a pit or something that might if there's someone on the ground, like a monster or a player monster or a character who's dying, be like, hey, watch your back.
Watch your step. Yeah.
It's more important that everyone is safe than to get a kill in a fantasy game.
Just be respectful. Be respectful of your opponents.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of going on for that, worst case scenario though, if something does happen and someone goes down and as actually taking an injury through, no one's fault perhaps, it's very important that you call it and make refs aware, and the call for that is man down.
Yes.
Although there is another
one. I can't remember. Somebody on Reddit very kindly told me it. It's like person down or combatant down or something.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the screen, whatever it is. But there are 2 calls, and that basically enacts a time stop in Empire.
Yeah.
A ref will echo the call, and everybody has to go down on one knee while they sort it out and take care of that person. Everything that happens there just freezes, and then when the person is safe, out, or moved, they'll say, okay, and back in.
And sometimes it actually can't. We were in it in the last event.
Yeah.
We actually had to the ref said, all you monsters, you're dead. This fight is over because we can't. The person couldn't be worked around, and so we're like, okay, the heroes have won this side of the fight, and like
we just fucked up
that's
back into the monster wood.
And like again, who cares? Fantasy game. Someone who's actually hurt, way more important.
Yeah, there will be times as well. I remember one time, because it only freezes that like 20-foot radius or whatever.
Yes.
Sometimes, like I remember when we were fighting as the heroes, we got time stopped. The battle kept going on around the time stop, and then when we came back in, we were like fully behind.
Yeah.
So it can be a bit like wibbly wobbly, timey wimey in that regard.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other things like that, obviously, a big kind of like danger moment can be getting caught in the press. So if you are, particularly what happens is if one side of a line is broken, is being pushed back, and then the other side gets pushed back, you get people in here getting like knocked against each other and pushed each other against each other, or getting pushed against like a lot of bushes or trees, or like basically a barrier of some sort.
The one I've noticed that happens an awful lot, and is can be a bit stressful, especially if you're not new to all this kind of combat stuff, is if your front row starts getting pushed back and your back row doesn't know. The middle row will then be in a position where people are trying to go back against them this way as they're fighting, and the people behind them are trying to get up to help the people on the front. And that's, just be aware that like in that instance, if it's getting ropey, you can put your hand up and be like, hold on, no, this isn't all right, we're getting squashed. You know? Absolutely fine.
OC safety over everything else, basically.
Yes.
You have here healing and combat. Do you want to talk about that?
I think healing can be its own video.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's why I left a little question mark.
There is a little question mark.
Fist fighting. Fist fighting is a thing in Empire. You can have brawls. The way they're done generally is you would talk to the other player beforehand, work out how it's going to go, and then have a WWE wrestling match.
Basically, yeah. They're real fun. They look real cool, and don't be afraid to punch your friend fakely.
Yeah, this is great, right? When you hit, slap your own shoulder. So punch real wide of them, but go. And to everyone over there, it looks like you're just punching.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my pro tip. But obviously be like this far away from them if you're going to do it. Don't actually punch your base.
But yeah, that is the general combat. So in part 2 of this video, which is going to be now, we're going to talk about
But also, way back.
We're going to talk about the different calls you can use and the different kind of spells and really the rules that you should be aware of in combat that you can be hit with and that you can hit.
That you can deal out and receive with confidence that you know what you're doing. Okay, see you in Anvil. Bye!
Okay, so we're going to have a look at Cleve. Now, Cleve is a strike that you can do by spending 1 heroic point. If you're doing Cleve, you have got to shout the word Cleve as you make contact with your opponent. Can we try it?
Sure.
Let's go for it. Okay. Cleve! And as we see there, because I have cleaved my opponent Godric here in his unarmored leg, he has ruined his limb. He no longer has use of that. So if that happens in your legs, you've got to drop down to the ground. If it happens to your arm with your sword, you've got to drop your sword. You can't use it anymore. If you get cleaved in your chest and you've got no armor, you immediately drop down to 0 hit points. So that brings us on to armor. Medium armor, so like your leather medium armor or your heavy steel armor, will protect against cleave, but you will use a hit point. And that's Cleve.
Another heroic call is Impale. If you have a great weapon, you can call Impale. Mechanically similar to Cleve, however, only heavy armor will stop an Impale, so it will ruin your limb or it will take you down to 0 if you hit the torso. You do have to shout Impale like Cleve. Impale!
Ah.
However, if you are shooting a bow or a crossbow, the arrow automatically does Impale without you having to call it.
So the next heroic call we're going to be dealing with is Strike Down, which is nasty and I personally hate it. And I think everybody else personally hates it too. And it's great for wrecking a shield wall. How it works is you come up against a nasty shield wall. Oh, I'm a Yotun. And you hit them with Strike Down.
Strike down!
They have to go onto their back or onto their bum and they have to stay here for a moment before getting back up. The nasty thing about Strike Down is that it can't be blocked or parried. So I can't get clever with it and be like, oh, here comes the Strike Down. And when it comes to this,
Strike down!
I still have to go down. It can't be stopped by anything. It's nasty, and as I said, we all hate it. We all hate it, guys, right?
It's awful, it's the worst.
We all hate it, but we love it.
Once you've vanquished your foe is now on 0 hit points, bleeding out. You can now call Execute. Now, this is your time to have some fun roleplay. You have to do 5 seconds of roleplay and then call Execute, so the person you execute knows that you're executing. Once you have executed them, they are not bleeding out and they are just dead, gone. I hope you don't make it through the labyrinth. Execute. Oh.
Hello again, I'm here to teach you a very cool instrument in the Mage's Toolkit. This is Shatter, and it's to be used when you're faced with something entirely tougher than you are, that's probably armed to the teeth and armored even more so. So what the scared little wily mage will do in this situation is call Shatter. Now, Shatter is our tool to remove this, whatever is scaring you, you can make it go away with a call. So it's like all the other calls, you have to strike them, make the call, but beforehand, because mages are street, you got to do a little slam poetry or a spell or whatever you think would telegraph it to the other player. Because it's not fun if we just go, Shatter. That's no fun on him. We got to be like, oh, I could repel, but then you'd go splatter. So instead, I'm a do shatter. And their shield is gone. And now I'm a slightly safer mage. Slight.
Okay, so another fun spell is Repel. Huh?
Yeah, very good, very good.
Nice.
If you hit someone with repel, they have to head 20 feet away from you. Or if they can't get 20 feet away from you, they've got to stand away for about 10 seconds before they can come back. Now, it cannot be blocked or parried, so it doesn't matter if you have a shield. So you have to start with a bit of role play as well. Let's see. Get back, you nasty druid, from where you came from! Repel! Weakness!
I got weakness cast on me. I can't use any heroic abilities.
Surprise!
Entangle!
Oh no, I've been entangled. My feet are rooted to the ground, but I can still fight. Ha ha!
Paralyzed!
Oh dear, I've been paralyzed. I can no longer move anything at all. Blah.
You've killed your opponent. You're victorious. But you want the spoils of war, so you're going to loot them. But really important when you're looting, we're not actually going to touch your victim. You're going to kneel down beside him. You're going to check in with them, OC, and be like, I'm going to loot you. Is that okay? You need to roleplay for 30 seconds that you're searching them. After the end of the 30 seconds, if they have anything on them, they will say, yeah, there's something in my pouch or something in my pocket, or they might just prefer what they have and give them to you. If you are a monster being looted, you will know if you're being looted because you'll have been given something at monstering. So I'll be here, checking around, not actually making contact if you don't want to do that to people, and after I'll be like, hey, got any cool stuff?
Yeah, I have taken.
Yeah, nice. My leg, it's ruined. I can't move. Help.
My friend, your leg is ruined! Right, we now need to move this person. I have an object in my hand. That means I need somebody to help me move them. But beforehand, when it comes to moving people, we don't want to touch them and make contact at all. We're just role playing. So Godric, help me. I need to move this person. We are going to role play that we are touching them, but he is going to stand up and we are going to walk across to a healer to be healed.
And he's now being carried.
But if I didn't have a sword and he was down, I can move him myself, but it's still the same rules. I'll be like, okay, I'm ready to move you. And then up we go and we can head off to a healer.
There's also a few like combat adjacent skills. So say you're like
So get
Jim
back
and you're
into my
really
chair with puppet energy.
struggling. Like so say we've cloven one of Jim's puppet limbs.
Oh.
And now his limb doesn't work, a la Cleve or Impale, as you just saw. If you have the Relentless skill, you can fix that right up. Except you have to say,
I am relentless
yes.
and do better role playing. You should be like, I am relentless.
Yeah, you gotta give it a bit of socks. Bit of socks and, you know,
Like
fix
proper
up,
like
fix up your limb, get it back into place, fight on. You're relentless. You're not gonna take that. That's the relentless skill. But then say I got cleaved in the torso and wasn't wearing any armor, and as you know, now your HP goes down to 0.
I am bleeding out for 3 minutes. Ah,
But
that's what a
if,
loser does. What you gotta do is, I am unstoppable.
yeah, give it your best Reinhardt impression from.
Yes, I am unstoppable.
Yeah, so unstoppable is like the only skill that you can use when you're dying, but you can only use it as soon as you're knocked down to 0. So you can't like
You can't wait until they've walked away and then be like, I am unstoppable, and jump up. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You gotta like take your hit and then say it loud and proud. Fucking pound the ground, pound your chest, jump up, and then immediately die again because you were outnumbered to begin with.
Yeah, unstoppable was a funny one because a lot of the time that is what happens. And if you get hit as you're using the call, it interrupts the call.
Yeah, you got to start again. And I
Yeah.
don't even know if you're allowed to start again with Unstoppable.
Yeah, I don't-
think they can just keep you in a like time loop of getting back up.
Yeah.
Or is it just wasted? I've never seen it interrupted.
Personally, I think it's bad sportsmanship to interrupt it because, like, it's a cool moment where you're supposed to be like, you know, using your skills and stuff. So it's like, yeah, if I was a monster, I'd be like, I'm gonna let them have this, you know?
I'd act scared. I'd be like, yeah, for sure. I have been told as well in the last event that you can use Unstoppable as a heal before you go down.
Yes, so I think the normal way or the usual way you can do it is basically a self-heal for 3 hit points, or you can use it when you hit 0 to regain 1 hit point. So yeah, it's a...
So the ideal time to use it is when you're on 1 hit point and use it to get yourself back up to 4.
Yeah, really is. Like, take a moment, like pull back in a line or something, roleplay for 5 seconds, say you're call Unstoppable, get back into it. Probably a lot more effective. You get a lot more bang for your buck.
Yeah, less risk as well.
Yeah, way more risk.
Immediate execution.
Yeah, and then for things that you can do to help other people, there's 2 calls that are really handy. They are Stay With Me and Get It Together. The first one, Stay With Me, is if someone is dying and they don't have Unstoppable or something, you can run over and be like, I really don't want you to die.
Well, I'm dying.
Well, stay with me.
Oh, I'm good again. We
And
can go back to the pub we own.
and that will bring them up for 3 HP. Or is it 1 HP?
But you should do better roleplay than that.
Yes, as for all of our examples, better roleplay is required. But yeah, and then similarly, if someone they're feeling a bit rough.
I've been brought to 1 hit point and I don't have Unstoppable or a potion.
And you're like, get it together.
Oh.
You need to fight on, get it together.
I feel more capable. I feel like I could probably take an extra 3 solid slaps.
And handy way to heal someone in the thick of the moment.
Now that was obviously a marcher example, but it is the same for everything.
Yeah, I've since dropped Get It Together, but I did like being able to use Get It Together in the line because like you get some good like roleplay opportunities of being like, you know, like almost like a rallying the troops kind of thing, and then being able to like stop someone and be like, Get It Together.
You can get a commander's headband, I think it is. That means your Get It Together affects the closest 3 targets as opposed to just 1.
That's cool.
So if you're a line commander, you can be like, all right, everybody, get it together! And then everyone gets 3 hit points. And
Yeah,
it's like
that's cool.
AoE heal.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then one thing I don't think we mentioned as well is potions in battle. So obviously you need a fizz rep, so you need something to actually drink from or pretend to drink from.
Yeah, and even your water bottle is enough for that, if needed.
Yeah, and you can, if someone is dying and you don't have Stay With Me, or you don't have a healer skill, if either they have a potion and you know where it is and you can take it from them, or you have a potion.
Because when you're dying, you can be like, there's a potion on my hip, and that'll get them back up.
Yeah,
as good as a healing skill.
And you can be like, oh, there you go, have a potion. And there you go. Your potions are good and effective, and you should not go into battle without at least a potion because they'll save your life.
Yeah, big time, big time.
But yeah, I think that is probably it. We may have missed something, and we may edit in some scenes of us wearing completely different clothes on a different day after the fact. But who knows? We don't.
We certainly don't.
So until then, do we have an outro for these? Do I ask this have I asked this before?
I want to say Stay Dangerous, but that's Hearthfiretales.
Yeah, we've done so much Hearthfiretales in the past month since we've done the last one of these.
I don't think we have an outro. Well, do you know what? Let's just cut here. Bye, you guys. And then we'll come back here after the anvil thing. And we'll do our outro here. So, we hope you enjoyed this little primer to combat in Empire.
Thing? What else have we shown?
All the stuff we filmed in...
I kind of assumed that was going to be before what we just did. I like how low we're getting on these chairs.
Yeah, it's comfy.
Yeah, it's comfy.
In any case, lads, we hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you again soon for the magic one or a recap or something. We don't really have a plan. Don't
Bye.
be afraid to cause a scene.
Yeah. Me.
I thought I could have been more dramatic, but I rolled over the sword. Hold on. You still there?
I hope that looks terrible at the end.